Namaskar and a very good evening, everyone. Swaayambhu aims at empowering academically unfilled youth with insights and internship offers that can help them achieve major strides in the career of their choice. Now, when we think of career, when we think of options, हम ये सोचते हैं कि क्या हमारे पास academic qualification है. But in these times of technology, we really can't play the card of ignorance is bliss. या ये मेरे syllabus में नहीं था, या ये मैंने सीखा ही नहीं है. You can't use this tactics anymore. So if you are ignorant now, it is entirely your fault. So इस fault को हम overcome कैसे करेंगे? We will try to work. We will try to get hands-on experience. And this way we will learn and try to supersede in case we have not done well academically. So we have with us a fantastic young lady. She is a Swaayambhu, a very charming, chirpy, very smiling and beautiful Swaayambhu with us today. She is a TEDx speaker. She is an author. She is a former journalist. And she is also the chairperson of Om Puri Foundation. Thank you so much, Ms. Nandita Puri. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar. And I'm really, really very humbled to be here on this platform. And I love the basic, the root for the theme of your platform, the subject of your platform. It is not always that you have to have qualifications, but knowledge is important. Maybe not qualifications and move ahead. And self-sufficiency, of course.
Correct. Correct. So we are trying to share some insights from Nandita ma'am and understand how has been her professional journey. And when one plan doesn't work, what do? We just give it up? Or do we try again with something else? एक बार अगर फेल होते हैं, क्या जिंदगी भर के लिए हम फेल ही रह जाएंगे? नहीं नहीं, हमें क्या करना है कि if we fail once, we have to learn from the mistake and start off again. The more we try, the better we get. Right? तो शुरू करते हैं हमारा क्वेश्चन आंसर का सिलसिला. And the first question I have for you is, when did you actually start working? Was it after you finished your graduation, or how did you start working, and how did that happen?
If you ask me, I started working actually from the 9th grade to earn my pocket money. But it wasn't like, it was just an extra, like somebody in my building. Yeah, she said, will you teach my daughter? She was in the 2nd or 3rd grade. Will you teach her English? Subject which was obviously, pretty close to my heart. So I said, yes, of course. So all I had to do was, go downstairs and teach her and get some money, earn some money. And that was like my pocket money. And then, of course, I started when I was, I think, in the 10th grade. When I was 15 or 16, I started working as an RJ for Yugavani, Calcutta. So I was an RJ there. And Yugavani is a youth forum, which All India Radio used to have earlier. I think they've discontinued it. Like you have Vivid Bharati for films, entertainment. You have All India Radio ABC and you have Yugavani. It is between the ages of 14 to 24 or 25, something like that. So I was an RJ for about 7 years, with Yugavani. But yes, of course, it was all a freelance job. So, when I started out, I remember the first, and I used to compare Western music programs. And the first, when I started, the first payment I got was 25 rupees for a 45-minute program. And I remember it was so, it was hardly anything, And by the time I left, we were getting 2,000 rupees per program. So that was quite a journey. And I remember first when I got the first check of 25 rupees, I had to open a bank account. And even then, 25, I'm talking like almost nearly 30 years ago. And that time even 25 rupees was a very small sum, mind you. So I had to collect 3 checks together till it was like 75 rupees and the time frame of the check would be over, and then deposit together. Then of course it increased, and I think by the time I left it was 2000. I'm very happy. So yes, that started off this thing, and then I continued my studies, by the by, graduation, and in between graduation and masters, I took a gap year, and I think that's the time I started getting into journalism and writing.
Okay. So, was journalism a planned decision, or it happened just offhand, or how did it work?
Well, it was, I would say, partly planned, because from the 7th, 8th grade onwards, I just loved writing, and all my English teachers, they loved me because I used to write very well. I am thankful to them because they are the ones who are my earliest mentors in journalism. The school essays which we wrote, and how they corrected, and my Wren and Martin grammar book. These were the things which really came in handy. And of course, by the time I did my English literature, because I enjoyed studying literature. So I thought, maybe let me complete literature, and maybe I could take up fine arts. I also enjoyed painting. And I had done 2 years of commercial art in school. So I thought, maybe I'll take up fine arts. But once I took up literature, and I took up the gap year between my BA and my MA, and I realized that writing is something I want to pursue. And I always wanted to write, and I always wanted to write, books and articles, published articles. So I said, it's very stupid. And a lot of youngsters approach me, say, we want to be a writer. I said, to be a writer, you need to get your experience. In our time, we didn't have much scope as a writer. Even as a journalist, not much. There was definitely some scope, but there were very few places of journalism to learn. So you normally joined a news agency, a newspaper, and you learned on the job. You trained.
Correct.
And you got a stipend and stuff like that. And very few schools of journalism then. I think among the main ones were the Jamia Millia, the Sophia, and one or two stuff. Today, of course, there's a wide number of schools. Media studies is huge. And I'm so happy and so heartening to see it. And not just journalism. In our times, we had basically print journalism. Journalism meant print. Maximum radio and a little television. Here you have so many fine aspects, niches, social media. It's confusing actually. It's really confusing. So we didn't have much this thing, and it was basically what I learned in school, what I learned in university, a lot of reading, and then hands-on into working as a... that was just right after my graduation. I joined. I didn't join. Strangely, I have worked with some of the top newspapers in the country. I've done columns for them. I've written columns for them regularly for 8, 9, 10 years. But I have not been under a payroll of any newspaper till date. And that is very surprising. People say, okay, you were from the Telegraph. Yes, I did write for the Telegraph, the Statesman, the Times of India Group, Midday for the longest time, Dainik Bhaskar. But yes, I have never, ever worked in a 9-to-5 newspaper job. Yes, I was a freelancer. I was a full-time freelancer. And what I learned, and I had to learn double. So there are 2 regrets I have of not joining a school of journalism. So today I always tell everyone, all the youngsters, please, whatever you decide to do, you have a variety of choices. We didn't have much. So please join. It is a course, it is a craft, it is a skill. As much as there is talent plays little. But I think your skills, your hard work,
that is what works.
Where it really works. And especially for me, I didn't even have the luxury of learning at a news desk. There are lots of journalists who've not been to schools of journalism, especially the older ones, because there were really not so many good schools of journalism. But at least they intern in a newspaper. And I didn't even have that luxury because I never worked. But then I used to always hang around in the newspapers, in the newspaper offices. I had lots of friends who were working. I used to hang around with them. Because I was greedy. and I was like, I had no privy to the knowledge, to the
Right.
training. So I would just
Right.
look at them, oh, how they are doing it. And every time an editor said, okay, this copy is wrong, you have to go back and do this, and this is it. And I used to literally devour every word, devour every experience, because the hunger was there, because it was very important, because I knew I had no skills, I had no qualifications, I had no learning experience. So working on the job was my way of learning. And I kept thinking for the longest time that maybe after a couple of years or after 3 years, once I've got a little bit of experience, I'll join a course in journalism. But that never happened, because, I kept on writing so prolifically, so, as a freelancer, that I thought this was quite, it's going good. So why should I now stop in between, get into a journalism, lose all the,
Correct.
So I just continued. And I think, it is a kind of self-sufficiency which grew up, because I had to learn, I had to literally listen to every editor who I worked under, whether it was, and I've worked under some great editors. And so, what they
That's
had
how it
given,
started.
Yeah, like,
Right.
like
So
we
amazing.
had the Sunanda K. Dattare from this thing, statesman Chidananda Das Gupta from the Telegraph. Then we had, the Joydeep, this thing.
All the who's who of
the
journalism.
who's who of, exactly. Yeah. And there was M.J. Akbar, who was at that point the editor of the Telegraph, and and then there was Ayaz at midday, and there was a whole lot of Bachi Karkaria. Yeah, she's part of my. Yeah. So we had a lot of stalwarts and sensible journalists, very, very sensible. It was not just journalism and yellow journalism, and you read a lot, you interacted a lot, and you picked up a lot on the way.
Correct. So what you said is so amazing and phenomenal. You were not trained as a journalist, right? You were not on the rolls. Okay, when you said I used to devour what is happening around, it reminded me of the book called as Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish.
Absolutely.
And you worked with stalwarts. My God, people actually dream of working with them. And then you didn't need to read books. You were actually reading people, the best ones, who may have written these books in future. Right? So you were one lucky girl, and you made that. Yeah. But I always say that when you are smart, you are lucky.
Absolutely.
If you didn't have that greed, if you didn't have that drive, if you didn't have that zeal, they wouldn't have taken you up for 7 years. They wouldn't have taken you up for a long time.
No, I mean, as a journalist, I was there for 20 years working as a journalist with some of the top publications in India and abroad, international publications also.
So you were that good. You were that good. So even if you didn't have any so-called academic qualification, you had something else which was much over and above a typical degree, right?
Absolutely. So in fact, I just want to interrupt you. It's strange, I did my graduation and I worked towards my master's degree in English literature. And my husband just did a plain, simple graduation. Okay. So everyone has to think, oh, he's just done a simple graduation. And here she is, very, very qualified. But that is actually the opposite. In my husband's case, he was highly qualified. He was an actor. He studied 3 years in the National School of Drama. After that, he went to the Film and Television Institute in Pune for 2 years. So for 5 years, he trained in the best, under the best, and a trained actor for 5 years. And if you look at me, I'm a zero. I'm an untrained journalist. So that way, if you look at it, he's highly qualified in his field. I'm not qualified in my field, but I've managed, not bad.
Oh, you are very modest because you say you are an untrained journalist, you are an untrained filmmaker, and you are doing astoundingly well. So I think you are too modest.
I think we just a little bit of hunger and street smartness.
Correct. I think that helps a lot in paving a path and taking the right decision at the right time. Now we have got too many youngsters with too many choices, and when you have too many choices, you are confused what to do.
Absolutely.
Either you follow the herd like a sheeple. Oh, he's doing well. Oh, she's doing good. Let me try that. So what is your message to youngsters who really don't know what to pick?
I would say you have to love something.
Hmm.
Whatever you love, pursue it.
Hmm.
In my TED Talks also, in both my TED
Hmm.
Talks, I always say a plan A and a plan B.
Hmm.
A
Hmm.
plan A is something which you really love, which you want to do,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
you're passionate about. Whether
Hmm.
say you want to do gardening, you
Hmm.
want to do cooking, you want to do
Hmm.
writing, you
Hmm.
want to do acting, you know. So that is something you genuinely want to do. But as my husband, who was such a highly qualified, trained actor, it took him 5 or 6 years to get a break, you know. So he always said, have a backup. If
Hmm.
you're an
Hmm.
actor, do cinematography or do editing or do sound or do
Correct.
something which will give you a regular earning, because
Hmm.
acting and direction are the two most difficult fields. So till
Right.
you can make it as an actor or a director, and similarly I also say, like, if you want to be an author, you know,
Hmm.
please, you can't just just come out of your 12th grade or finish your graduation, say, here, I'm writing books. No, books take a
Hmm.
lot of skill, a lot of training, a lot of practice, a lot of reading, and a lot of experience.
Right.
So
Right.
if I decided when I just graduated to be an author, in
Hmm.
2 years time I would have been frustrated. I would have
Hmm.
either just gone back to some regular job. So
Hmm.
if you want to continue in writing, do something which will give you your bread and butter. Like in my
Hmm.
case, I took journalism. I
Hmm.
also, for the longest time, while I was graduating, before I joined journalism, before I started writing for newspapers and publications, while I was graduating, I was a manuscript editor. So I used to edit,
Hmm. Hmm.
PhD thesis papers, a lot of
Hmm.
stuff I used to edit,
Hmm.
and I used to
Hmm.
get paid by the page. I think those days I got paid 2 rupees a page, and it was a lot. And I used to keep hoping that the paper, thesis
Num-
would be really thick
right.
so that,
Right.
I earn a lot of money. So, that is
Correct.
how, so those were
Correct.
things. You do allied stuff. You take up
Hmm.
copywriting, you
Correct.
join an ad agency, somewhere which
Right.
is constantly honing your skill. And I
Right.
always tell youngsters, have a backup profession always.
Hmm. Hmm.
I also tell my son, like, like he's
Hmm.
keen on taking up filmmaking and
Hmm.
acting. And I say, no, but before that, you have to be a graduate. This is what my husband always said. So he is
Hmm.
studying, he is doing his economics, graduation in
Hmm.
economics, so that he
Hmm.
has one backup. If
Right.
tomorrow, things are not working out, I always tell youngsters, you have so much choices. Whether it's a staggering cost, have a second
Hmm.
option also. Unless you
Correct.
have a family business, and that's also your option,
Hmm.
if you're not
Hmm.
taking it up as a full-time career.
Hmm.
So don't get disheartened, and whatever you love, whatever
Hmm.
you're passionate, pursue it. But keep a
Correct.
backup. And secondly, don't
Hmm.
lose heart. Really don't lose heart.
Correct.
And you have to be qualified. In my
Hmm.
case, it was just, I think, by the grace of God, it was a lot of luck. I managed. But,
Hmm.
everyone can't be lucky. I think every field, even writing, it's a skill, it's a craft.
Correct.
Acting is a
Correct.
craft, is a skill. And you
Hmm.
have to learn it.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely well said. And any skill you have taken care of, I think it helps you in the long run. We are not
Absolutely.
we are not aware of it. We don't plan it, but it definitely helps. Like you mentioned that you took up journalism and then you authored book. Your first book, your debut novel, 9 on 9. I just read. Wonderful, wonderful.
This is a collection of short stories.
Right, and it is also featured in Mumbai University
Yeah.
syllabus and New Zealand University
Yeah,
syllabus.
and Denmark, Danish. Denmark.
Whoa.
So this is, see, when I was doing columns for midday, and
Hmm,
they
hmm,
give you a word limit of 500, 600, 700. So like you have to compress your thoughts to 3 words, you know. So one learned to edit, and I was an editor, so I was a journalist. So it was always editing. And then I wanted to write, I wanted to write fiction. And then I started writing a novel, and I was very unsuccessful because I think after 2-3 months, I just abandoned and I was going nowhere. Then that's when I said, let me start with short stories. It was Gulzar Saab who actually told me, don't jump into a novel, start off with short stories. And I wrote, this is the book, 9 on 9. It's it's women as protagonists, but it talks about 9 urban Indian women from different stratas of society, from different communities. It just goes into the various communities of India. And yes, I enjoyed. So when I wrote short stories, like from 1,000-word article, I was doing 6,000, 7,000, 7,500, 8,000 word short stories. It was much easier. And yes, it's also been in the Sahitya Academy Anthology of Indian, short story writers.
And you have put out a 30th edition, I've heard. 30th edition
it's gone into various, I think 35th edition also.
Splendid. So you took baby steps of growing.
Absolutely. Right? First it was journalism, then short stories, and then of course from short story I went into the biography of my husband.
Right.
So this is the biography, which was of course a huge voluminous work covering the whole, not only his life, the era of parallel cinema in India, and that was a big step from short stories. But then again, this was non-fiction, so I had a lot of facts, ready, so I could, use it. And then after the biography, I really finally plunged and completed the novel, which I started before the short stories, and I was very unsuccessful. So this is like, two worlds, thriller, a romantic historical thriller comprising over 2 centuries, and traveling through Kolkata of the Raj days to, to Bombay, to London, to Wales. It goes all over. It has the saga of the East India Company, etc., etc.
So you have a mind which travels a lot.
It does. I travel a lot, and my mind travels more than I travel.
Correct. I also understood that when you took baby steps, you were not competing with anybody. She was just understanding that she has to go to another level and be her better version every day, right?
Absolutely.
So you escalated yourself to another level, and that is what you should do. Don't take a high jump or a long jump. Go baby steps. Ensure that you are better than what you were yesterday. And I think that is enough. You don't have to compete with anybody.
No. The moment you think, okay, so-and-so is my contemporary, and so-and-so is, has written a novel.
Right.
But, I mean, you're going to make a fool of yourself if you've not skilled, if you've not mastered the art. So best is to go take baby steps and be very happy, and you are your own competitor. That's how you improve.
Correct. So in the journey of journalism, did you have any interesting or learning episode which you would like to share with us?
There have been lots. And as I said, I never went to any journalism school. So, when you go to a school, you learn theory, you learn what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing. I used to learn on the way as I moved along. So I remember the first time in my enthusiasm, I was writing this lovely piece. I interviewed this cellist, and I was commissioned to do this for the Telegraph color magazine in Kolkata. And I was so happy that it came out, and I got a nice byline. And I think 2 weeks later, I gave it to the rival paper. The same article, and it was the Statesman. And they were furious. I was called in. The editor, blasted me and said, "How could you do this? You are blacklisted." I said, "Please, give me one chance. I'm sorry." Of course, he realized that I didn't do it on purpose. He's saying, "See, if you want to, If you really want to, as a freelancer, you need to recycle your articles. Don't do it in the same city with the same private papers, and don't do it immediately. You write it for this paper. If you have to give it to another city, another paper. Today, of course, everything is one. All newspapers are one. In our time, it was, city-specific papers. So, you give it, or you wait for 6 months, 8 months, a year. So these are the little things you learn, and you pick up on the way.
Right. So, since you were very raw, you didn't have any boundaries, or you didn't know where to go and where to stop, right? So
initially I was a little over enthusiastic, and I think it was good that I made these mistakes initially, so I was held back. And of course, I used to read some books by American authors on, journalism, who were professors in schools. But I think what you do on the job is much more you learn. And I was very happy, Maybe, I think after about 7-8 years, when I decided to do a course in journalism, and I realized, I said, it's going to be very tough. Apart from the technical stuff, which you learn in a school, in a graduate school, it's really going to be tough, because I have written, I have moved around, I have done everything on the job. They're going to teach me the same thing again in school, So that again, but then you have to be very hungry, you have to be very smart, you have to be, ears and eyes open all the time.
Right. That is the only way to learn.
Yeah. In fact, my husband would say, if he went for a film party or a film premiere, he's saying, now don't think of an article here. Okay, just relax, chill, because I would keep looking and see who's talking to whom and what and how to. I'm framing an article all the time. So, I had to be told that, please don't write here.
Control
Stop
it.
Yes.
Right.
And for the longest time, anywhere I moved, I would always see news. You have to smell a news. You have to see, hear a news. And I would be smelling news all the time. Every time I went anywhere with friends, I would think, okay, now how do I twist it? How do I peg it? How do I, till finally, even when I did, stop active journalism, even then, for the longest time, I used to, keep smelling news stories, till finally I said, okay, fine, now you don't have a deadline and you don't have to write, so chill.
Correct. Nice. So, you first started with short stories, then you wrote a biography, then a thriller. And then how did you decide to get into a non-fiction, a real story on child trafficking, Jennifer, right?
Jennifer,
So it's a very hard-hitting story, and non-fiction. So what inspired you, and how did you get into writing Jennifer?
So Jennifer happened about 5 years ago. So this is my activist friend, Pradeep Havnur, who's a lawyer activist, and who works for an organization called ACT, Against Child Trafficking. This is based out of Belgium, Brussels, sorry. And he and his colleague Arun and Anjali from Pune and Roily Post from Brussels, they were all they were trying to curtail inter-country adoption, which in a way leads to child trafficking most of the time. So one day Pradeep came to me and told me about this girl called Jennifer, who at the age of 8, who comes from a very poor Malabar Christian family from Ambernath, who was trafficked out as an 8-year-old to the US, was sexually abused by 2 adoptive US homes by the father. Then she changed about, by the time she was 10, she moved into the US foster care system, which is very, very notorious. And she changed about 50 foster care homes.
Oh my God.
She, by the time she was 18, she got into drug hustling in drugs, in crack cocaine. And then by the time she was 19 or 20, she married her boyfriend, who was a 4th-generation drug dealer from Chicago. And both husband and wife were, dealing in drugs. And they had 2 kids, a 4-year-old son, and while the daughter was 3 and the son was 4, both of them were busted undercover and put in behind bars. So he was put in one prison and she was put in another. And while she was in the prison, they found out that her name was Jennifer Francis, which was her parents' name, birth name,
Hmm.
Hancock's Edgell, the two adoptive homes, and Haynes, a married name. So they found out her name was Jennifer Francis Edgell Hancock's Haynes, and they wondered why she has so many surnames. And while doing a check, they found out that she was living in the US for 20 years without any valid papers. Now, the reason why she didn't have valid papers was she was changing houses. She was changing homes. And nobody could process the papers because by the time they were processing, she was in another house. But what actually happened is she was charged for aggravated felony of drug, possession of drugs. But when you are adopted as an 8-year-old, it is the duty of the adoptive country, USA, to process your papers. Now, if her papers weren't processed, they should have kept her in prison like they do to an average felon, an average criminal that, okay, you serve your 5 years or 4 years or 6 years or whatever. Right. And once you come out of it, we process your papers. But they didn't do it. See, US says, oh, she's Indian, she's born in India, send her back to India. We don't want her. So they quickly shackled her hand, feet, and put her on a flight. And the stupid Indian ambassador over there, that idiot who was there, Meera Sharma, I think her name was, having no clue, just signed her. And here comes Jennifer leaving behind, and she's an American. She doesn't know what India is. She speaks like an American. She is American. She thinks like an American. And she is put here with 2 children, leaving behind 2 children, and a husband over there, and who's in jail. And so she is miserable and she wants to go back to the US, and she's got a 20-year ban. So that's when Pradeep Havnor and ACT came to me and said, will you please write about Jennifer and help her? Maybe we've tried. They fought a case in the Supreme Court, in the High Court, in the Bombay High Court, in the Supreme, and they lost it. So they said, maybe through the book on humanitarian grounds, if she can go back. So first I was not very keen because, child trafficking is not my subject at all. Right. It's a very heavy subject. If I can't deal with it properly, I'll appear like a complete fool. So I said, see, this is not my subject. So, and I don't do social work. I'm not even a social worker. But then meeting Jennifer, seeing her and realizing, that life has given her such a raw deal. And she's here like a refugee, literally. So that's when I said, no, I need to write her story. And through Jennifer, hundreds of others, who are in a similar position. Like there's this organization from Bombay called the Quantum Charitable Trust. Okay. Which was run by a lady called Clarice D'Souza. She must have been 92, 93. She passed away a couple of years ago. She claimed to be a social worker, but she actually, under the garb of adoption, trafficked out over 5,000 children from Bombay to feeder fields, to the houses of, sex. I mean, they were used for various purposes. And after Jennifer's book has been launched, there were so many people writing on Amazon, on the online, that thank you. It is reading Jennifer's story is reading our story. And, the whole idea is one should stop the inter-country adoption. Because according to the United Nations law, the Hague, the law which we all follow, adoption laws. Ideally, even if you're a South Indian, you should, from Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, whatever, you should try and adopt a child within that region. It would be weird to put a South Indian child with their features into a Kashmiri household.
Makes sense. Correct.
No. So all the more you should keep the region of, say, Eastern India with. Now, suppose you don't get enough families, then you move on to other homes all over India.
Right.
But then India has so many, a list, long, never-ending line of, people wanting to adopt, that it is ridiculous to send children out of our country. True. But it's been constantly done all over the third world countries. Our African countries are selling their children to Europe, to America, thinking that they're going into good adoptive homes. No, they're not. Out of the 100 children you send out for adoption, only 10 reach a proper adoptive home. And 90 of them are used for, for sex, as sex slaves, as for organ transplant, as child labor, for, for a lot of religious jihad. And child trafficking is so profitable today that, it's the most profitable trade in the world. It is much more profitable than drugs. And you have some of the the strongest and the most powerful, organizations in the world who are dealing with it. And they include the Vatican, they include royalty, the European, the British royalty, the Illuminati, and I've tackled that in my book. So all this required a lot of research. It required, and a lot of sensible paperwork. It had to go through lawyers, because I can't keep, pointing fingers and then, we end up being slapped with a number of lawsuits.
Right.
So all that had to be cleared. Proper, sources had to be proper. Sources we had to get through to proper sources, and Wikipedia is definitely not a source. So all that had to be done. It took 5 years, and then after that, it was such a big fat book, so I had to cut it down to 250 pages, because it had to be readable. I couldn't, burden a layman with a whole lot of knowledge on child trafficking. No, they want to read it through a human interest story, so that they empathize with this.
Right.
So that was,
so we must thank ACT, because with the research, with the Jennifer non-fiction, you have actually opened a can of worms.
Absolutely. In fact, I don't know, first I completely refused. When ACT asked me, I completely refused. I said, no, this is not my cup of tea. And then they said, okay, just check, see if you can. If you feel like, then I said, okay, let me do something. Okay, I'm not writing anything. Then a couple of friends, when they heard the brief, they said, please go ahead. This is amazing. So I asked them, I said, you think I can do it? And Pradeep said, of course, we are there. We'll supply you with all the facts. You don't worry about that, but you just have to write it. You have to put it down, into a story and write it. And that's...
You must have encountered some shocking realities when you did your research.
I went into a lot of, these... apart from the international organizations, and I went into the drug dens here in Bombay, where they make substandard meth and other drugs, and a whole lot of stuff. I had to go.
My goodness, just listening to it is so scary.
It is.
How she must be living it, and the whole lot others. Yes. My God, quite a dreadful journey.
It is.
So much of trauma. of trauma.
Like Jennifer says, I just don't know why life is continuously dealing, giving me so much of... it's not, they say when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Jennifer says, life gives me rotten lemons. So how do I make lemonade?
Right. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. Thanks to ACT, and thanks to all the well-wishers who are doing a good job in ensuring and protecting child trafficking. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We have a few people who are our loyalist and ardent followers. Thank you, Mr. Jai Singh. Thank you, Anandi. Thank you for joining. Hello, Meenal Shah. Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Dr. Deepa. Thank you so much. I will move on to the next question, and I request all the viewers to please comment and ask your questions. We have her with us today, and she is very charming and quite open to giving answers and sharing her insights. Please comment and ask your questions. Waiting for your questions and waiting to share the Hangyo ice cream as well. Now that you are the chairperson of Om Puri Foundation, what is your experience? Because this is a different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
So how do you feel, and what inspired you to start this?
So I lost my husband very suddenly and very tragically in 2017, and he was one of the finest actors. I mean, it's an understatement, but he was also one of the earliest Indian actors to have really had an impact in world cinema. and perhaps the only Indian actor with the Order of the British Empire, with Her Majesty had given him, apart from a whole lot of other awards and stuff like that, and perhaps the first Indian actor to be honored in the Oscar Memorial. So I felt that Omji had a lot more to give, and his calendar was full till 2020, 2021. And I said, what we have to do is, he had a huge body of work. Over 300 films, international films, Indian films, some of worked under legendary filmmakers and directors.
Absolutely.
So, and amazing work. So,
Right.
and he would always say some of my work, are so good that they should be shown in universities and colleges, made part of the curriculum like Bharate Coach and stuff like that. So that is the time at the Cannes Film Festival in 2017, I launched the Om Puri Foundation. And the two-pronged ideas. One was to take his legacy forward through festivals in India and abroad, schools, colleges, universities,
Right.
and his philosophy forward. So he came from an extremely humble background. He came from a very poor farming background. And he had a very tough time through National School of Drama. And he wanted to take up theatre. He could not after NSD. So he joined FTI, and it was only the largest of friends who helped him through his NSD and FTI days. He didn't have food also. So I began by introducing two scholarships. One is the Om Puri Fellow for a graduate of the National School of Drama, his alma mater, and one is the Om Puri Scholar at the Film and Television Institute of India to a deserving student. Now, by deserving, I don't mean somebody who gets 90% and comes from a very affluent background. No. And I also don't mean somebody who's getting 30% and comes from a very, the poor background, needy background. No.
Right.
Somebody who is good average, who is sincere about acting. So anybody, and who is needy, who needs that money. So that is the Om Puri Scholar and the Om Puri Fellowship. And he believed that the farmers were the backbone, because he came from a farming background. So he believed the farmers were the backbone of our nation. So we should help the farmers by, we've instituted the Om Puri Kisan scholarships for farmers' children.
Okay.
And we've given many to children in Maharashtra, from farmers in Maharashtra. And we work with a number of NGOs who work with the farmers, like the Durde Patil Trust, and they recommend, and a lot of, in Bundelkhand and all over. And so that the children of the farmers are educated, they study, they want to study agriculture, and they come back to farming and not live in the cities, in these not very nice conditions. And the second thing is the artisans and the craftsmen, where we introduce the Om Puri Karigar scholarships for children of weavers and artisans, because he felt that we have such a rich heritage and tradition that we can be a self-sufficient economy.
Right.
And this is what, we are being taught today, Atmanirbhar, Swaayambhu, everything. So that was the whole idea. And in 1983-82, Shyam Benegal made a film called Susman on the weavers, on a master weaver. And Omji essayed the role of the master weaver of Pochampalli. And for the 2 months of the shoot, Shabana played his wife, and there were others like Ila Arun and Neena Gupta in the film. Now, Omji stayed with the master weaver for 2 months in his house. He learned to weave. He wove 20 meters of cloth. He made dupattas for Shabana ji. He made shirts for Govind Nihalani and Shyam Benegal. And he made a shirt for himself, which he wore it for our wedding. So, and he empathized that it takes months for a weaver to weave something, something exquisite. 2-3 months he spends, and he gets probably 2,000, 3,000 rupees now. Okay. And the thing is being sold for about, say, 25, 30,000 rupees.
Right.
So what in between, it's the middleman. So we have started, to bring in through the Om Puri Foundation. We take the Susman story ahead. We bring the craftsmen and the artisans on the platform of the social media platform, where they sell directly to the sellers. They don't have middlemen. you know.
Right.
And
Right.
this is how the foundation started. But unfortunately, in this pandemic time, it was, when I realized, my book was just launched in March. And then, all the book readings and everything got cancelled because lockdown happened.
Right.
And so for a
Right.
week, I said,
Right.
oh, my book readings, my book launch, everything's gone. Then I said, anyway, let's not fret about that. That'll happen. So in the meantime, I started working for the foundation, and I realized that this is the time. If we don't come out now, then we cannot, live up to Omji's ideals. So we've reached out to about hundreds of farmers, Dabbawalas of Bombay, the artisans from all over India, and the cyclone victims of West Bengal, Sundarbans mainly.
Right.
So what we have done, the Om Puri Foundation, we have directly transferred money into their accounts for ration. So we don't give it to any NGOs. We get the NGOs to associate with us to give us their database, and we directly transfer the money, because I think it is very important, as two of our Nobel laureate economists, Amartya Sen and Abhijit Banerjee, both have said, please put money into the hands of the people, into the hands of the poor, into the hands of the needy. And that's only when your economy will flourish. So, so that is what we decided. In our small way, directly it will go into their bank accounts, so that at least for 2-3 months they have their ration.
Right.
So this is
perfect.
And I think that kept me busy during the lockdown. And I felt that chalo, the foundation could do much more than the scholarships and fellowships.
Right.
So that was the idea.
Correct. God bless you. You are doing such a commendable job.
I think
it's not a job actually. Right.
It's not a
you
job.
Are in a happy space. You are in a happy space when you talk about the foundation.
Yeah.
Right. When you spoke about the book, you had a different vibe, but when you spoke about the foundation, there was a different aura around you. So God bless you. God bless you. And I'm sure there'll be many more NGOs and people like me who will connect with you, so that we can all reach out to more people.
Absolutely. Right. We have a website, www.ompurifoundation.com. So you can see everything over there.
Right. We shall definitely do that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And when you mentioned about the scholarships, it is so important. Like, not everybody knows everything. And that is actually the beauty of life,
Yeah.
Because we don't know everything. We are interdependent. We have this ecosystem where we can give and take. We can learn from each other. And that is how we grow. This is life, and this is the beautiful ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Right? So we must cherish this. I think
because Omji would always say, it's very important to make money. He came from a very difficult background, but he said, after a point, how much you are going to have gehu ka roti? Aap to sona aur chandi ka roti nahi khaoge. So you have to give it back to society. So he said he gave it back by working for some doing amazing films, by bringing out the socially relevant issues on screen. So in fact, Jennifer is my way of giving back to society.
Right.
And
very nicely put. Very nicely put. I'm dying to ask a question that when you spoke about adoption and when you spoke about child trafficking, especially inter-country, is there something which we as common men can do, in terms of adoption? Is there something which you can suggest or a message?
See, whenever you want to adopt, try and adopt within your community. See, you don't want to, like I've seen white Americans adopting black Americans, African children. Now what happens, it's very easy. You are doing something great and you are bringing out that poor child. But if you can have physical similarities and geographical, milieu, familiar geographical milieu, is better. Because what happens when the child grows up and goes to school, and the child is constantly told, and it's happened to a couple of my friends, Indians who were adopted by German parents, and they were constantly ribbed. How come? You look at your features, you're dark. Okay, so it is a trauma for the child. It's not as easy as it sounds. So try and, of course, if you're within the southern part of India, within the northern, within the eastern, as much as you can. And one is not saying, no, please stick to your regions, move out, but within the country. And try not to, I mean, Indians, though we don't normally adopt, first world. And I would say we should stop inter-country adoptions, because inter-country adoptions lead to child trafficking. You don't know really where the child is going. I may be an American, showing all my credentials, and I pick up the child. The social worker will only monitor you for 6 months to a year. After that,
correct.
What happens?
You just don't know.
You don't know.
You just don't know. Right. I think that is a strong message. If we can, I think we can have one biological child and probably adopt one.
I mean, I think it's very, very important to have one biological child and adopt a child. That's very important.
Right. I think this is a message
I have a lot of my friends who've done that. And, I wish I could do that also.
Right. Hats off to all the parents who have done that.
I know.
Thank you and bless you. Thank you and bless you.
Absolutely.
If I may take up a question from one of our viewers. Hi, Anandi. Anandi Dhume. She is from Thane and she has a question. The most common question which I get from young adults ready to make a career choice and few who want to take up journalism as their career is, I want to know how to maintain the work and life balance.
Work and life, as you mean by housework? I guess so.
Most of the
well, I think if you're taking up full-time journalism, then it's like any other, any other career. You have to strike a balance. It's like working in a bank, and of course, journalism and hospitality industry and the media have absolutely ruthless hours. So you have to keep that in mind also.
Correct. Correct.
And there are this thing you have to learn to strike a balance. And if you're a freelancer like me, then it's all the more easier. Much, much, much more easier.
Correct. But it is not always possible for everyone to take up freelancing.
No, so therefore you work full time. And I have nearly all my friends who are journalists working full time and running a full household with children, looking after. So it is a little more difficult for journalists, I would say, because of the hours.
Correct.
But you do manage, I guess. We all manage.
Right. I think women are good at multitasking.
Absolutely.
And they do a splendid job.
They do a fabulous
every time,
job.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Right. You have donned multiple hats as a author, as a journalist, as a scriptwriter. You've written screenplays, as a filmmaker, and now you are chairing a foundation. So which one is the closest to your heart and why?
At whatever point in time, whatever I took up is close. So when I was a journalist, I was completely focused. I would say, I am a journalist. I never even said, I want to be a writer. A lot of people say, I want to be a writer, I want to be an author. No, I was a journalist. I'm still very proud of being a journalist. So that was there. Then when I was an author for some time, I was, and a screenwriter. And now I'm a lot focused on the foundation, but actually writing is something I really am very close to. That is something I really, whatever I do, whether I'm doing the foundation or anything else, I will always be a writer inside. A writer will always be a writer.
Correct. Once a writer, always a writer.
Always a writer,
right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you are always mindful in what you do. Correct? So you are involved. Okay,
yes.
You don't
Absolutely,
do things half-hearted. You don't do things superficially.
No.
If you do something, then you do it thoroughly. You are mindful.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Like for example, a lot of people have told me, why don't you become a producer? There was a time, why don't you will get a channel, this thing, you can start this thing, be a producer or be a director. And I said, no, please, I do not want to be a director. I do not want to be a director. I am a writer and I shall be a writer. It's like my husband. Okay, now for example, many people would tell him, oh, Omji, you work with some of the most brilliant directors in the world. And he would actually, for young directors, he would give them tips from director's point of view, and they were amazing tips, you know. So that was because of his experience. But whenever anyone told him, "Omji, why don't you direct?" he said, "No, I'm a trained actor, and I do not want to direct. I have a better perception as an actor because of direction, but I do not want to direct." And that is something very important. I am a writer. I will focus on the various aspects of writing, whether it's copywriting, whether it's journalism, whether it's authoring books, whether it's screenplay, whether it's whatever, manuscript editing. I would stick to that. I don't want to go beyond that because, you know, you end up being jack of all trades, master of none. And I've seen this with a lot of filmmakers, you know, especially actors. Actors suddenly want to become writers, and then they have ghost writers writing for them. Well, if it gives your ego satisfaction, which is good, but then you are an actor and you're a good actor. So why do you want to? Or a director suddenly wants to say, "No, chalo, I'm a good director, but chalo, I can also write." Arey, let the writer write. You know, or a writer suddenly, okay, if you have the sensibility, you do go. You know, there have been instances where editors, film editors like Rishikesh Mukherjee, Basu Chatterjee, all moved on from editing to direction. That is a different, when you move, progress, but not because today I'm a director, I also want to do that, and I also want to do that. Oh, no, you cannot. You have to be focused in what you do. You know?
Right. Perfect. Perfectly said. Now, your life, if you take a look back, or what we have heard and read about what you have shared, it has not been a very beautiful, easy going.
Roller,
It has
yeah.
been a roller coaster ride. So, when you had these lows in life, what is that, inspired you to come back? What made you think that, I have to come back? This setback is very temporary. I need to come back
Yes.
to action.
So
Yeah.
every time something went wrong, I would say, "And this too shall pass." And every time I felt a little down, even now today, sometimes, you know, when we look at the depressing news on television, as we sit at home or look at these, you know, forwards, WhatsApp forwards, you have to consciously cut them off. Or if you are looking and you feel low, you just go and engage yourself somewhere else. So I start, you know, chopping vegetables, cooking, or something else. You know, I enjoy something. And so even when the adversities came in life, one said, just live through it, go through it, live every moment. Don't think what will happen. Try and take the bull by its horns and move on. And of course, this too shall pass.
Beautiful, beautiful. This too shall pass. And like Gulzar Sahab had said, थोड़ा सा रफू करके देखिए ना, थोड़ा सा
Exactly.
रफू करके देखिए ना, जिंदगी तो है, फिर से नई सी लग जाएगी. थोड़ा
बिल्कुल
सा रफू तो करके देखिए ना.
बिल्कुल
Very
बिल्कुल
nice, very
बिल्कुल.
nice,
That's
very nice,
beautifully said. Lovely.
very nice. I think with so many crafts you have, I think you've always driven yourself to hone your skills, do better than what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
So, what is that you look for yourself, in the near future?
Uh, I don't really plan. Currently,
Hmm.
what I try, we have a, you know, we
Hmm.
don't plan, I don't plan too much ahead.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, you have a little bit of focus, immediate future. And especially, you know, the way I lost my husband so suddenly.
Hmm.
So I actually
Hmm.
have stopped planning, you know, and I
Hmm.
like to
Hmm.
live for the now, for the
Hmm.
present.
Hmm.
And like, for example, Jennifer, the child
Hmm.
trafficking and
Hmm.
intercountry, you know, stopping
Hmm.
intercountry act has been very successful in
Hmm.
stopping a
Hmm.
lot of inter-European uh, adoptions. So
Hmm. Hmm.
what I plan to do now is I've just finished the screenplay of Jennifer during the lockdown, and
Okay.
we are working on it. It's the third draft now. We're working on the fourth draft. We are bettering it, and then slowly, very soon, we hope to have a motion picture on Jennifer.
Whoa.
So
Perfect.
get it across.
Perfect.
So that is there, and the Om Puri Foundation is there. And immediately we are looking. In October will be Omji's 70th year. So we are
Okay.
planning a year-long celebration through his work, through various activities. So basically that, and
Right.
taking Jennifer ahead.
Correct. So you already have your plan set.
Little bit,
Correct.
yes.
You already have your plan set.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. You mentioned that you were a RJ when you were a teenager,
Oh,
and
yes.
you were into Western music. So when you said Western music, I remembered the song by Whitney Houston, "Give Me One Moment in Time when I'm
Yes.
more than I thought I would be, and in that one moment of time, I will feel eternity." So did you have any moment in time, or you're still waiting for
I've had lots.
it?
See, when you have a moment and then that passes and another moment comes, so it keeps going. You know.
Correct.
No, I just really can't remember. Maybe I've had lots of moments. Yes, it's this thing. But yes, I enjoyed my stints as a Western music RJ with All India Radio. So that was fun also.
Correct. So you have just disconnected with journalism. Why don't you venture again as a cyber journalist or something?
Yes. A lot of my friends, a couple of my friends have actually told me, please get back to journalism, start your channel, start your blog. I said, yes, I will. Actually, for years, I lived on a deadline. Every Thursday was my deadline day. Friday would be the column out, and so from Saturday would be relaxed. Then Sunday would it would be relaxed. Then Monday, Tuesday, and then from Wednesday, the tension would build up. Okay, what to write now? So all this. So I've lived all my life, deadlines with deadlines. So I think it's nice not to have a deadline for some time. That regularity, of course, is very important in life. It gives you so much of discipline in life. And Guldar Sahab always says that. He's so regular even today. Shyam Benegal, even if they're not doing a film or not, they will go down to their office every day, either read or write or do whatever. So that is the kind of, discipline they have. Unfortunately, I don't. But yes, the deadlines have always, been too much. And also the state of journalism has really gone down. It is so sad. And I like doing the occasional pieces. I will get back to the occasional pieces. I don't know whether I can, get back to a full-time, regular, this thing, deadline-based journalism, because and I'm not really happy with the state of media is in today, especially television media. And actually, everything boils down to television and social media. It is sad the way, even the print is sometimes taking off. In our time, we had yellow journalism, good journalism, bad journalism, and sometimes purple prose. But today, I see everything is like a paid journalism. Yellow, purple, whatever, it is all paid. So you don't know whether to even believe the good one or the not to believe. So that is, this. I think the last 15 years since paid journalism came and advertorials came, it has been very discouraging for somebody like me.
Right, but you always speak your mind. So, like it is said that the world is a bit negative, not because of the noise of the wrong ones, but because of the silence of the right ones.
Maybe.
So we sincerely hope you come back.
I hope so
you
too.
Must come back.
I think I will. I think you've kind of, that sentence you just said is probably making me think again.
Yes, so I think you are the right one, and you must speak your mind, and that is exactly the intention why we started getting candid.
Yes, and then get trolled. Right? Speak your mind and get trolled.
I think you need to have the right people following you.
Of course.
Yeah?
No, I don't mind right or wrong. I don't mind getting trolled. But the thing is, yes, it had, journalism had disappointed me.
Correct. So I think you should set a benchmark again and, be back. Right?
Then we need a lot of like-minded people to, come back.
Oh, I definitely think more than one people, you will have a big caravan happening.
Lovely.
You just start off. You will definitely have a lot of people joining in. Because I think
Inshallah.
one true friend is very important than having,
Absolutely. That is
lakhs of
true.
people following
That is
you
true. That is true.
mindlessly.
That is true. That is
Correct,
true.
correct, correct. So you have shared so much about your career, your profession, what you're doing now, and what are your plans. There are many viewers and aspiring Swayambhus who want to have a career in the artistic field. And artistic field is always very challenging because you really don't know what the next week or the next day is going to be. So any specific message for the ones, trying to get into the artistic world, any special message for them?
I have always said in my two TED
Hmm,
Talks, Plan A and
hmm,
Plan B,
hmm,
please, artistic field.
hmm,
My husband was an artist, the
hmm,
most, a field you can't really depend on. He didn't even know
hmm,
where the next meal came from or whether it would be coming at all.
hmm.
So please, please, please have a regular, solid backup. Whatever it is. Agar you want to be an actress and you're good at cooking or something, take up a
Hmm,
job as a part-time cook
hmm,
or whatever,
hmm,
till
hmm,
you make it as an actor. My
hmm,
husband, when he came to Bombay, 4 5 years he had no job. He wasn't, I mean, he
hmm.
couldn't make it as an actor till Ardha Satya actually,
Right,
this
right.
thing. So till then he taught movement and
Hmm.
speech in Roshan Taneja's actors studio.
Okay,
And the
right.
first batch of his students included Anil Kapoor and Mazhar Khan and Gulshan Grover and
Okay,
Madan Jain,
right.
Surinder
Hmm.
Pal. They were all his, first group of
Students.
students. Yeah. So he
Wow.
taught speech and movement. So he taught
Hmm.
for 5 years. I mean, he was a trained actor
Hmm.
and he knew he was a good actor. But
Correct,
he said, okay,
correct.
let me teach because I need to. So
Hmm.
please have a backup, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Have a
Hmm.
backup which will guarantee, even if it has to be a bank job, do it.
Hmm.
Yes,
Correct, correct,
yes, because
correct,
otherwise,
correct.
what happens? See, in this pandemic, you find so many young, the junior artists
Hmm.
who have nothing to fall back on, and they're
Hmm.
committing suicide. Such youngsters, and those youngsters shouldn't be committing suicide because they should have had some kind of backup. They should
Correct,
have, they should have the energy to
correct.
work. So if you
Hmm.
just think that, okay, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a painter,
Hmm.
I'm going to, be a singer
Hmm.
without a proper, even if you're a singer, teach.
Correct, correct.
So you have the backup. Don't have to
Right,
move out of your field. Be within your field,
right, right,
you know?
right. So you need to be multifaceted, plus be mindful on what you do and
Exactly.
take a decision as according to the circumstances,
Absolutely.
right? And keep going. You just
Absolutely.
keep going, right?
Absolutely.
And I think
Like
you
your
must.
organization, fabulous, what you've started. And I've been reading about it and it's really, really amazing. Hats off to you.
Thank you so much. God is very kind. And when I started, I was the only person with my kids supporting me. And then once I shared the idea with everybody, all the like-minded people joined in. So I think if you are right, we get the right people
Absolutely.
to join in,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. I
And
completely agree
blessings
with you.
of God always work. They are the most powerful.
Absolutely.
They are the most
Absolutely.
powerful. So thank you so very much for giving your time, for sharing
Thank you.
your work, your personal experiences. I'm sure all the aspiring Swayambhus learned, so many interesting things, and will take care that you need to learn a lead, something which is complementing your career, so that in unknown, unforeseen circumstances, you are able to take care and keep
Absolutely.
the fires burning at home, right? एंड डोंट गेट डिप्रेस्ड डोंट गेट डिजेक्टेड हमें अगर अमृत नहीं मिलता इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हम जहर पी लें ओके
Bilkul.
कीप ऑन ड्राइविंग योर सेल्फ that you do yourself proud, your family proud, and the country proud. And we do that, we automatically do well in life. So way to go, youngsters, lot going for you, and we are always there
Absolutely.
to support you. We
Absolutely.
have got fantastic Swayambhu mentors who are always ready to help you. Keep mailing to swayambhu@gmail.com. We love the messages you share. We had plenty of messages shared by principals also, that in spite of heading a organization, institute, college, or school, even they find these sessions so interesting and they learn a lot. So I think it's working well. Thank
Lovely.
you so much. Thank you
Lovely.
so much. And thank
Thank
you to
you for
all the
having
viewers.
me.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless. May you always be smiling and healthy, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to you to be on the cyberspace again as a cyber journalist.
Absolutely. Now you have absolutely put in a, seed. You've sown the seeds. So let's get back.
Right.
Thank you
So
so
all
much.
the best. Have a splendid Sunday ahead. And tomorrow we shall meet Mr. Chandrasekhar Tilak, and he's going to share something on economy and finance. So let us tune in tomorrow and catch up. Bye bye. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.